Shalom, covenant keepers and children of Israel. You're listening to Awaken to Torah Ministries, where spirit and truth converge. We are a listener-supported ministry and ask that you prayerfully consider supporting this work. This ministry is focused on revealing the message of Torah as taught by our Jewish Messiah, Yeshua. Your donation will be used to further a ministry devoted to exposing the lies that we have inherited from our forefathers, as Jeremiah 16:19 clearly declares. You can contact us at 77690 South 4680 Road, Stillwell, Oklahoma 74960, or join our mailing list at awakentotorah@gmail.com. We look forward to meeting you when we once again are sheltered by a cloud by day and a fire by night on our way to Jerusalem. Shalom Aleichem, and we'll see you there. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the Tents of Israel. I'm your host, James Gillespie, as always. And in the background, we have Chris Jones and Ryan Knoll. Let's see if I can fix this camera. For some reason, it's wanting to go down on me today. I don't know. Make it look like okay, I don't know. Maybe I need to put it up higher or something. Okay, yeah, that's better. At least my head's in there. It looked like just my chin, like I had a floating head in my camera there. so Ryan and Chris are in the background. Tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. Normally I have a little message here, but I think the message of this movie is going to speak for itself. I just wrote down a bunch of symbolism and that kind of stuff. I went on Facebook today. Let me bring Chris and Ryan on the screen so you can see their beautiful faces while I talk here. But I wrote down a bunch of stuff today because I wanted to go back and watch the movie again, so I could make a more concise thing about all of the symbolism that was in this movie. And I kind of felt a little overwhelmed. And I know that if I watch it again, I could probably do another 5 pages of symbolism that was in this movie from all of the stuff that I didn't write down. Because at points you're being so bombarded with the symbolism that it's overwhelming. And I started at first to write down scripture for every symbol that was being given and the sequence of the symbols that were being given. And I realized, no, I can't do that. I would be there for a week just writing down the scripture references to the symbolism that was being given in this movie. For those, I'm just going to do a short little recap. For those that didn't see the movie and you want to see the movie, mute me right now because I'm going to do a bunch of spoiler alert stuff, okay? Because I'm just going to do a little quick run through of the movie. So at the beginning of the movie, Julia Roberts wakes up. She wakes her husband up. She's already made reservations for Airbnb, I think on Staten Island or Long Island, one or the other, right off of the harbor there in New York City. You can actually see New York City from where they're at in this movie. Kind of like that skyline view behind Ryan there. I find that symbolism. I don't know. I'm seeing symbolism everywhere now. So Ryan, you're freaking me out. But I don't know if that's a New York bridge or the San Francisco one, but they kind of look the same. Anyways, when you start getting bombarded with all the symbolism, you just start seeing symbols everywhere. Me and Steve was talking last night that if you type in Islam, the Antichrist, well, about 30 or 40 minutes into your Google search, you'll be 100% convinced that Islam is the Antichrist. If you do that with Catholicism, same thing. If you do that with Buddhism, same thing. So whatever religious system that you put in there, or whatever well-known name that you put in there, you'll be convinced that whatever that is the Antichrist. So with symbols, we need to understand all of that. So we don't want to read into something that's not there, but we want to be paying very close attention to what is there, because Scripture says that there will be nothing done in secret that the Father will not bring into the light. So it's like these hyper Satanist people have to. I mean, they have to expose themselves, and they expose themselves, but they do it in these secretive ways that if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it. You're not going to see what it is, because most people go and watch this movie and, oh, that was a weird movie. It wasn't even very good, is what most people say, because it's kind of slow. But when you start looking at it for what it is, oh my goodness. Okay, so the thing that, go back to the beginning, the thing that got me to watch this movie, because those who really know me know I don't really watch TV, I don't watch movies, it's just not my thing. Unless somebody that I know suggests something that they think might be beneficial. So then I'll go watch whatever it is, and if most of the time I don't make it 10 or 15 minutes in it, and I'm like, it's not for me. But this movie, I watched the whole thing because the opening credits got me. So I'm just gonna, for those people who have seen it, most people don't pay attention to the opening credits, and you probably, if you watch it on Netflix, if you're like me, you probably the first time skip through it all, because I don't want to see who the actors were and who the directors were and who the camera grip man was. I mean, who cares about the camera grip man or the mic grip man? Nobody cares about that dude. So what I care what his name is. So I try to fast forward through all of that, but today when I went back and watched it, I watched it from the opening second to the end. And so I'm going to jump over here real quick. This is just the opening credits. This is the symbolism that I found in the opening credits. The first symbol was planes. I mean, if you look at it, it's flashing red and black and white, and it's these drawings like block type drawings. It's not an actual picture of a plane, but it's like a block picture of a plane. Okay, and the same is true with everything that I'm about to say. So number 1 was planes. Number 2 was handguns. Number 3 was upside down flags. Number 4 was flamingos. Number 5 was tankers or cargo ships with containers sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Number 6 was shotguns. Number 7 was ascending and descending staircases. There's a name for that if you're on the staircase, you don't know if you're going up or down. That I forget the name for that staircase. There's a famous artwork of it. Anyways, I can't remember, but it's that staircase. It's kind of a mind twister. Number 8 was upside down buildings. Number 9 was upside down Statue of Liberty. Number 10 was floating teeth, like teeth in your head, just a tooth that somebody pulled out of your head floating around in the sky. Number 11, and this is where it got kind of hinky because they flashed these last two so quick that if you weren't paying attention, you would miss them. And the number 11 one you might think was a plane, but when you pause it, it's not a plane. Number 11 is upside down crosses, so a huge occultic symbol. And the final one, number 12, was the all-seeing eye. So if you go back and watch the opening credits of that movie, you're going to see all 12 of those symbols. Before you ever, after she wakes up and tells them they're going on this little mini vacay for the weekend, you get the opening credits, and then the next thing they're in the car headed to the house that she's rented. So I'm still on that screen. I never jumped off the screen. So the story goes that this little girl, the 13-year-old girl, is watching this series of Friends. And she's on season 10, which is the final season. Those who watch Friends, was the final season, and she's on the final episode. And as the final episode begins, she loses internet service on her iPad. So she's stuck to where she can't see. She's watched binge watched this whole series, and now she can't see the final episode. So it's really stressing her out that she can't see the final episode all weekend long. That's one part of it. But if you look at the symbolism there, this thing about Friends is going through the whole movie, and there's comments made about it throughout the movie that what I took away from that was you better know who your friends are, and you better have them close to you in proximity. Okay, not close in feelings, not close in anything else. You better have them close to you when whatever it is goes down, because you possibly will never see them again. There's a line concerning that. I think it was there's a black girl that comes into the scene a little bit later, a younger black girl. And she makes the comment, why is there such nostalgia around a fictitious thing that never happened? Well, I watched a little bit of Friends growing up, and that was reality. And if you were around New York, you had this close group of friends, 4 or 5 people, and you hung out at coffee shops or at restaurants or bodegas or something like that, and got to know each other. So that was, it was reality in the reality that I grew up in. But in this movie, they make it as though this never happened, that this wasn't even a possibility of this happening, because it's not real. Now, of course, we know it's not real, and it's a sitcom, but that environment absolutely was real. But in this movie, they're trying to make it like it wasn't real, like that never happened with anybody. So very big symbolism in that as well. Those who watched the movie, that the movie was broken up into 4. Somebody said 5, but I counted 4 parts. So I'm just going to read through some of this, and whenever I talk about some kind of symbol that you or Chris feel like something is nudging you there, Ryan, y'all just jump in on top of me. Don't feel like you're interrupting me. Just jump in on top of me, and I'll go quiet. All right. But because I wrote down 3 pages of stuff here, and did not write one scripture. Okay, and I probably could have written 5 more pages. So I started at part 1, the house. One of the key things was novella. So the password to the internet, why would they mention what the password to the internet was at the house? But they did. And the password was novella. So I did a word search on that word novella. And it's kind of a bougie thing for short novel. Also, the one of the main characters, the black guy, he was like in charge of the symphony or orchestra or something. He sat on the board of it. Novella actually goes back to sciencey stuff too, like supernovas and that kind of stuff. So depending on which avenue you wanted to take, you could find some real symbolism in that. Okay, so at the beginning, when right after they get there, the husband and the wife are talking. She goes to the store or something. When she gets back, they want to go to she's like, the kids are going to want to go to the beach. So the kind of the main scene of the movie, the main opening scene, is this beach scene. And what I noticed there is the son had on shorts that had checkerboards on the side of the short, black and white checkerboard shorts. And the dad had on a black and white checkerboard shirt. So the dad and the son both wearing black and white checkerboards kind of drew me into the occultic thing about checkerboards. It's all a chess match, and they're always moving the pieces around and that type of thing. So just giving you that symbolism, that occultic symbolism of checkerboards and how everything's a chess match, and you're always 3 moves behind if you're just a normal person. But right when they get to the beach, the little girl notices a tanker out off the beach. And she's like, man, that's a big boat. Well, as the opening scene keeps rolling, the boat is getting closer and closer and closer, or the tanker is. And the tanker pushes ashore. And when it pushes ashore, I mean, it's rolling up land. I mean, if you can imagine a huge tanker grounding itself, if you're in the way, you're going to die. But everybody's running like crazy and that kind of stuff. And it finally stops. And when it stops, you notice on the side of it, the name of the tanker is called the White Lion. I'm not going to elaborate because we could stay on that name all night long. If you just start doing some research on White Lion, very big occultic symbols, something that they keep pushing, this narrative of the Antichrist is a white lion. He's coming as a roaring lion. I mean, the whole mimicking of the Messiah, all of that type of stuff. Okay, so big symbolism there. The next one was that shows you while they're at the house, actually before they go to the beach, there's a TV playing right off of the kitchen there, or the dining area where they're sitting. And on the TV is spring baseball, and the dad makes mention of the baseball game in the movie. So that's telling you what time of the year it is. So it's basically in the springtime, spring season when baseball starts. When they're doing this, and they mention that it's the off season. So either it's late fall, and we know it's not late fall because fall would be football season, not baseball season. Okay, so that these little symbols that they throw throughout the movie are really pointing you to time frames. Okay, because there's clocks and there's all the symbolism throughout the movie. So it's baseball season, so it's the spring of the year, right before the normal rush season when everybody's going to be renting, those types of houses and that kind of stuff. So it's not peak season, it's off season. The tanker runs ashore. I talked about that. Okay, clocks throughout. 2 times are clearly displayed in the movie. Okay, and I made note of these. I paused the movie, wrote down the time. So the first time that is clearly displayed in the movie is 11:17. Okay, it was a clock on the wall, and the time on that clock was 11:17. The second time we clearly see a clock face, the time is 1 o'clock. Okay, but there's clocks all over the house. In one scene, there's actually 3 clocks on one wall. So, I mean, they're trying to point you to something, to pay attention to the time. Pay attention to everything like that that's pointing you to what season and what time it's going to be. All right. Let's see. They were playing Jenga, so like everything's balanced on this little fine line. Is the message that they were trying to send you there by playing Jenga? The wife and the husband. The kids are up in the bed, and this is where the black guy and his daughter show up. I forget the guy's name, but they show up. They knock on the door. Julia Roberts starts being really, I mean, she's making some really undertone racist comments like, how do we know this is your house? This doesn't look like your house. I mean, like, what does a black person's house look like? I mean, those types of things, like a black person can't own an upscale house like the one that they had rented in, and that's kind of the undertone that she's giving there. So anyways, they come inside. They explain to them that there's a blackout in New York City. And I made note there as well that the reason that they left this, they were at the symphony or the orchestra or whatever it was that he was doing. They left there and came out to their house that's out on the island because there was a blackout in New York City, and they lived on the 14th floor. And supposedly he had some knee issues that he couldn't climb stairs, so they decided to come out to the house instead of going there and trying to climb the stairs. So the 14th floor was kind of a big deal that they made there as well. But there's this comment that's made right there in that section. It talks about the media. So they turn on the TV, and there's this national broadcast emergency thing on the TV. There's no television going. Everything's shut down. There's no. All you can see is this national broadcast emergency thing on the TV. But there's this comment made there that seems almost. It seems in place, but kind of out of place for the comment itself. And the comment was, "The media serves both as an escape and a reflection." So it's like they're trying to tell you. They're telling you something. They're saying, listen, we're telling you something without telling you something. Pay attention. The racial tension throughout, and then they make this comment that the sun is asleep and that he could sleep through an atomic bomb or sleep through the atom bomb, which actually comes into play later in the movie. The plausible cause of what's going on is a cyber attack. That's why there was a blackout. I wrote the 14th floor thing there. But then, just out of the blue, they're having this conversation, and for no reason at all, Julia Roberts makes this comment, "Our daughter is sleeping down the hall." So her husband replies, "So what, you don't think he's going to molest our son?" I mean, so kind of in the middle of nothing, they're talking about molesting their own children. And this black guy might go molest their own children, even though they're going to be sleeping in the basement and they're sleeping upstairs. It's just a weird out of place thing that they're talking about child molestation of both boys and girls at that point in the movie. And then the bedroom lamps in the basement. That was kind of another thing. So you can tell at this point that the black guy knows more than he's sharing, and even with his own daughter. So he's doing the distant stare. You can tell he's thinking about things at that point. But the lamps in the basement are figure 8 lamps. They either look like what you would think of an hourglass or a figure 8. So you could actually interpret them lamps as either one. But in between the lamps on the wall behind the bed is this big mural picture of the United States. But it's sectioned up into several different sections and painted in different colors and rearranged. So it's an abstract art, like they're going to divide up the United States into different, but it's only 2 colors, I think green and red. you could interpret that as blue and red as well if you wanted to. Democrat, Republican type deal, if you wanted to. But in the picture, I believe it's green and red. And I think did I talk about the girl shirt and the boy shirt? Okay. So there are two different paintings changing throughout the movies. Let me go back to that. There's this big mural painting in the living room, right off of the dining room area, where most of this movie takes place is in the dining room and the pool, and there's basically three main sections, possibly four: the dining room, the bedroom, and the pool, and the shed out in the woods. So that's the four main settings. But right off of the dining room is the living room, or the sitting area, and there's this huge mural painting on the back wall. And in the opening, in part one, it's these four. It looks like if you were a DJ and you were mixing music and you were watching the signal on your screen, it looks like that signal on the screen. It's kind of up and down type signal. And there's four white bumps there. I heard one guy attributing it to, it being four white people, and the contrast of white and black, because the mural itself is white and black. The second time you see that mural, it's actually almost evenly divided. It's a totally different picture, but it's almost half black and half white. And then the third time you see that mural, it's almost like static. I mean, it's black and white just everywhere, mixed in together. But it's so subtle, if you're not watching it, you don't realize that it's changing. Somebody was really good at catching that. The one that I caught was the bedroom one. So the upstairs bedroom, or the master bedroom, and in the opening scene where you first see that mural, it's really calm seas. And then the next time you see it, it's a little bit rougher seas. And then the third time you see it, it's just rolling waves, like chaos. So I equate those two murals the same thing. As the movie gets more chaotic, so does these pictures get more chaotic. And it's like, the clock. So the first time you see the actual time on the clock, it's 11 something. Well, just 2 hours later or something, 1 p.m. is the next clock you see. Now people are dying and airplanes are falling out of the sky and all this crazy stuff's going on. So everything's getting more chaotic exponentially as time goes on. And they're portraying that as well in the background symbolism. What most people don't realize is you might not pick up on that stuff consciously, but your mind picks up on that stuff subconsciously immediately. So, subtle little changes like that. So you don't realize it, but it is. It's actually a type of programming. If you know about Project Looking Glass, Project Bluebird, Project Bluebeam, all of these government programs that have been being planned for years and years and years, all of this stuff is subtle, and television and movies are one of the best ways that they do that. I don't know if you've heard about The Simpsons and how they've predicted Donald Trump, and I mean just all of these crazy predictions that The Simpsons made years and years and years before it happened. That's not coincidence. I mean, we say it all the time. The Hebrew word for coincidence is what, Chris?
Yeah, there's not one.
Yeah, there's not a Hebrew word for coincidence, because there's no such thing as coincidence. And we see that playing out in this movie as well in a big way. Let me see, where was I at? The national emergency, two paintings changing. So when they started sharing information with each other, the black family and the white family withheld the information about the big tanker grounding itself. And later on in the movie, that they revisit that conversation and they're like, well, why did you keep that? And it says she was afraid that the information of the tanker grounding itself would confirm something. So this tanker thing comes up 3 times in the movie. It's like there's these sequences of 3 things repeating over and over and over again. The 3 clocks, the 3 stages, the 3 times the tanker's mentioned. The first time it shows up, the second time she mentions it, the third time's the color of the tanker, and it makes you analyze because they say the red tanker. Well, the tanker wasn't red. The tanker was red and it was mainly black. So it had a little bit of red on it. So it makes your mind go back and reanalyze that tanker. No, the tanker was red and black, and the writing was white where it said white line. So it's programming at the same time. All the symbolism is absolutely programming. But if you're paying attention, you might see something else. The little girl's shirt. So now that's where we were at before. So her shirt says NASA on it. She's 13 years old. They've been in this house for now 3 days. They packed their clothes because she talks about packing them suitcases at the beginning of the movie. Okay. So why this little girl did not change her clothes, other than when she was in the pool, that she was in a swimming suit. But when she's out of the pool, she's always in this NASA t-shirt. It says NASA on it. And the boy has on a shirt, an Obey shirt, okay? Obey clothing brand. If you look at the picture on that Obey shirt, though, it actually looks like an inverted, like the white is black and the black is white, an inverted picture of Obama. And at the bottom in big bold letters, it says Obey. But the crazy thing about his shirt is it's the exact same shirt. But in one scene, it says Obey and it has the picture on it. The next scene is just a blank t-shirt, same color. And in another scene, it has this like white circle thing on the shoulder, some other symbol that I couldn't actually catch. So his shirt, the symbol on it changes 3 times, the same way the pictures change 3 times, the same way there's 3 clocks on them. I mean, this repetitive 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 going all the way through this movie is crazy. The map picture in the basement, I talked about that. The other daughter is standing in the window and she's daydreaming. This is the one. It's just, these things that are out of place with the movie. People need to. That's what you need to pay attention to. So the black guy's daughter, she's standing at the window, just kind of gazing out the window, and just out of the blue, I mean, the whole world's going crazy, and she just says, "Do you remember that time we were in Europe?" I mean, that's not a normal thought process when the whole world's going crazy around you, and she's thinking about, you remember that time we were in Europe? So. Again, pointing your mind to maybe getting out of the country type deal because of what's going on inside the United States at this time. So her dad leaves for a minute because he's trying to go find a phone that works because he's trying to get in touch with her mother. She's an art dealer and she's supposedly on her way home from Morocco on a plane. And so he goes over to a friend's house that lives by their house who supposedly has a satellite phone, and he goes in the house. Of course, somebody's already broken into the house and the house is all disheveled, but he finds the satellite phone. He goes outside and there's no satellite signal. So now he realizes it's not just locally, the internet's not just down, satellites are down, blackout, something major's going on, and you can tell it's registering with him that whatever it is that he's kind of thinking at this point is actually coming true because he hasn't revealed what he knows yet at this point in the movie. But he goes outside and walks down to the beach and he sees this watch in the sand. And he reaches down to pick this watch up out of the sand. That's the second clock that you actually see. The face of the clock is on the watch. and the time is 1 o'clock. But when he pulls the watch out of the sand, it's attached to a whole forearm and hand. And he starts looking around the beach, and a plane has crashed, and there are dead bodies on the beach, and luggage, and plane parts, and all this kind of stuff. So he's kind of freaked out about that. And then he gets up and he looks up, and another plane is headed on the same path to the same beach. This is the same beach that the tanker wrecked on early at the first part of the movie. So now, basically, because all the satellite signals are out, all of these planes and all these tankers and everything that navigate from satellites now have no way to navigate. So they're just nose diving into the ocean, running ashore. They just have no navigation process. And so now you have the tanker, then the planes. The third one that doesn't have the navigation is about right after this point. The White family, they take off and they're going to try to go to her sister's in New Jersey. And they get there, but the road's blocked by all these white Teslas. And Julia Roberts gets out of the car and she goes up and she starts looking at these Teslas. And there's not a driver in any of them, but they're all white Teslas. And she looks down and she realizes that every one of the cars still have the window stickers in them. So they're all brand new Teslas that nobody's even owned before. And then it zooms in on the sales sticker, and all of them say self-driving. So all of these Teslas have activated themselves and went and wrecked themselves into the back of each other, blocking the highway so nobody can get out off the island. By their navigation system, because they're self-driving, and her husband thinks somebody else is coming in one of these Teslas, so he's out waving them down, trying to tell them that the road's blocked right around the corner. And she realizes what's going on at the same time, that this car is unmanned and it's coming to wreck into the back of that one. So she gets her family and she gets out of there, and they're dodging traffic. Okay, so there's your third symbolism of satellites going down, the navigation system's going down. So they're basically telling you that you can't navigate yourself out of this. So if you think you're going to get on Google Maps and go from one place to another, you're not going to be able to, because satellites are down. And then, let's see. At the same time, her husband, or the black guy's on the beach. The plane nosedives in there, so he takes off running. The plane nosedives right into the beach, so all the sand and surf and all that comes up just as he makes it back into the house that he had just come out of. Blows the windows out. Of course, he gets wet and covered with sand and all that kind of stuff. The scene switches again. The husband, the white husband, is gone into town for something, and this drone is dropping leaflets. Now here's a really secretive thing that if you're not in the know, you won't know this one. Okay, so the drone's dropping leaflets, and the husband gets one of the leaflets and he brings it back to the house. The son in the movie interprets what the leaflet says, because it's written in Arabic. And supposedly the leaflet says "Death to America" in Arabic. So they're trying to insinuate that Islam is the one doing it. But the symbolism on that leaflet, and when I say this, Ryan's going to get it, and you may too, Chris, right away. It is a serpent with venom coming out of his mouth. Anybody watched In the Water?
Mm-hmm.
The whole Robid bite bean basically was started from a snake venom that they developed in a lab somewhere. That's Death to America. That whole just the symbolism on that flyer alone was enough to say, okay, they know what's going on here. No, and they're just right now they don't care. They're just putting it in your face. They're absolutely just putting it in your face. Then yeah, the son says that death to America, and the watch attached to the arm. The plane noses down, satellites are down. The impression that there was someone sleeping. Okay, so the little boy, so the boy, he's like 16 or 17. The girl, she's 13. They walk out in the woods behind this house, and there's a shed kind of down in the bottom. And he's in there, and he's telling her this scary story. And he points out that there's this indention in the leaves in the shed. Why the shed floor is covered in leaves, I don't know. But the shed floor is covered in leaves, and there's an indention like somebody has been sleeping in those leaves. And he tells his little sister this story that this guy's probably sleeping in there, and at nighttime when she's up in her room with her light on, he's peering up through the window into her room, just trying to scare his little sister, and then he bangs her head on the window and scares her, and that type of thing. But the problem with that is they never developed the story of who was sleeping in that indention in those leaves. So huge symbolism there. You know, somebody's there, but we don't know who it is. And somebody's watching you all the time, and you don't know who it is. So that whole symbolism that the government's watching you, they're paying it. You better pay attention because they're always watching you, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing. Somebody's always watching you. That symbolism is thrown in there as well. Let's see. The girl's tattoo. So the black girl, she's got a tattoo on her shoulder. And the tattoo is 96. Most people, if you know anything about cultic symbolism, 96 and 69 are just reverses of each other. It's called a black mirror tattoo. So some people that believe that, you know, there's a white sun on one side of this plane and there's a black sun on the other side of the plane. It's really a cultic in type of thing. So the symbols of just the occultic, the all-seeing eye, that's several times in there. There's actually a like a calendar type thing on the wall in the movie, and there's like 100 all-seeing eyes on it. So this all-seeing eyes throughout the thing as well. Occultic symbol. Now you're at the part of the movie where everybody knows that there's an attack taking place, that the satellites are down. The phones are down, the television's down. They can't get out of town because the roads are blocked. They're stuck. And then the next scene you see is these like eagles and vultures and stuff like that all flying to New York City. What symbolism is that? Can you guys guess?
No, I don't get it.
Revelations, when it says
anything to do. Go ahead.
Book of Revelations, when it says that that there's going to be so many dead bodies that the birds will flock there to eat the flesh of them.
There you go.
So absolute symbolism there. New York City, where it says, and they'll sit in the harbor and watch the smoke of her burning, and all of that symbolism is right there at that point of the movie. But now the son has gotten sick because they were in the woods, and as they're coming out of the woods, he pulls something off of his leg. And I jumped back to part 2 or part 3. This huge sound comes out, high-pitched sound that is deafening, but the son doesn't cover his ears as quick as everybody else, so they don't know whether it's radiation poisoning or if it's poisoning from whatever he got bit by while he was out there in the woods. But he wakes up and his teeth are falling out, which is hence the symbolism at the beginning of the show with their teeth falling out. So they believe he's got radiation poisoning or some kind of Lyme disease or something like that his teeth are falling out, and he's sick, running a fever. Maybe a combination of the two. It's like everything in this movie has 2 and 3 layers to it. So all these symbolisms are 2 and 3 layers deep. Part 3, the sound. Okay. Sound warfare, high pitched combined with thunder and explosions causes pain and possible radiation. The boy's bitten by something in the woods. And then she makes this statement. Things get funnier with time. She makes a statement like, that saying, things get funnier with time, and her husband corrects her and he says, I don't think that that's the right saying, but he never replies with what the right saying is. Okay, so it's actually things become more clearer with time, not things get funnier with time. So it's like we're living in an alternate universe, and the government is trying to dictate to us what to believe and what not to believe, and they're trying to make us think we're crazy. Anybody heard of the Mandela effect? I know Chris and Ryan has. We talked about that a little bit. Well, this week that this movie comes out, something else comes out, because one of the big things that everybody remembers about the Mandela effect is this movie called Shazam, where the guy is Sinbad, plays a genie in this movie with this little boy and this little girl who basically wake up this genie because their moms died, and I mean that's the way the story goes. Anyways, Sinbad says he never played this movie. It never happened. And then there's another movie in this reality called Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal where he plays the genie. But the Sinbad movie, Shazam, supposedly never happened. Well, this week, not only did they find a copy of the movie, they played a clip of the movie, and it's exactly what everybody remembers. So everybody that's been being told they were crazy for the last 6 to 8 years, that movie never existed, and you sharing false memories, now have proof that no, I wasn't sharing a false memory. It's actually a fact, and here it is. So those things are slowly leaking back into this reality to prove that those who have been being told they were crazy are not crazy. I mean, I remember as a young, where the name Mandela effect comes from is some people like myself remember Nelson Mandela dying in the late 90s or the late 80s, early 90s. I remember that because I was in California in school. They pulled us all into the gym. They set up these big TV monitors and they showed us, that Nelson Mandela had died in prison from starvation. He had starved himself to death because of apartheid, and all. They gave us this big, long teaching and speech about it because about racism. I didn't know anything about it. I was a little white kid, from Oklahoma, just moved to California. Nelson Mandela didn't mean nothing to me at that point. But then, just 16 years ago or 18 years ago, we see Barack Hussein Obama going to Nelson Mandela's funeral. Well, a lot of us that didn't make sense. Well, how could he be going to his funeral when he died 15 years before that? That doesn't make any sense, or 20 years before that. So that's where the term Mandela effect comes from. And then people started realizing more and more stuff, like Jiffy peanut butter. And in my reality, my favorite peanut butter was Jiffy. Choosy moms choose Jiffy peanut butter. That's the reality I come from. I don't know what this Jif stuff is. I didn't exist in my reality when I was a kid. But this whole Mandela effect, this movie kind of alludes to that without saying that. But basically, they're saying that those people that are paying attention to the media, they're being duped. If they're watching TV all the time, they're always on their phone, they're being programmed by the media. And that was the thing. It's for entertainment or for reflection. So they're either trying to program you, and even in the entertainment, they're trying to program you. So I'm not saying don't ever watch it, because clearly we're talking about a movie tonight. But at the same time, you probably shouldn't be on that, watching that stuff all the time. Not good for you. Not good for your mind. The sound warfare, they're saying that the sound warfare was micro microwave sound warfare, where it was actually causing radiation. That could be why the boy's teeth were falling out. And then here's the kicker to all of this. So, and I may not even try to read the rest of this, because today as I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking, okay, the springtime, 11:17, 1 p.m., all of these things, because 11:17 could be November the 17th, or it could be 11:17 in the afternoon, 11:17 in the morning. It could be 1 in the morning. It could be 1 in the afternoon. I mean, all of these things is kind of going through my mind, and then somebody sends me this other link to this movie that's coming out next year, April 26th, 2024. So when's baseball season? It starts around April. Is when you start getting your first games of baseball season, which that's what this movie was talking about. And I'll get into some more symbolism here in just a second. But another thing that kind of struck me about that April 26th thing is that's right during the week of Passover as well. So the week of unleavened bread is right there at that time that they're releasing this movie called Civil War, which is what this movie is alluding to, is a civil war. So now we go back to some more symbolism. I get a trailer of this movie that's going to be released on April 26, 24, called Civil War. And guess where the Civil War starts? In Dallas, Texas. So the prepper in this movie, which is played by Kevin Bacon, guess what? He's got a baseball cap on, and guess what's on his baseball cap?
Texas
Dallas
Rangers.
Cowboys.
Oh,
Dallas
okay.
Cowboys.
Oh,
So he's got a Dallas Cowboys hat. Above his head is a horseshoe. I mean, just all of these occultic symbols. Five-pointed star, Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The horseshoe above his head. All of this, just kind of stuff. Well, when they get back in the car, because there's this big scene where Kevin Bacon, the black guy, the Kevin Bacon is the guy's contractor. They go there to get some medicine for the young boy. He's not going to give him any because he's protecting his family. He's a prepper. He's like, get back in your car. He's there with the shotgun. The black guy has a gun. He pulls it out on Kevin Bacon. The dad of the boy gets in between them, calms things down. They pay him $1,000 for a few pills to give his son. They get in the car, and that's finally almost the last scene of the movie is when the black guy breaks down and tells the story. Okay, so these are the last three things. Now, I could go through a bunch more symbols, but I'm skipping like a whole page and a half of symbols here. I may touch on one or two of them, but I'm not. I feel like I'm going long here now. I talked about the Dallas Cowboy hat, but the black guy starts saying that this rich, because he's a stockbroker, and he's one of these stockbrokers that's not moving millions of dollars, he's moving billions of dollars. He's that kind of guy, and he talks about the evil cabal. So his main client is this guy who evidently goes to like the G10 summit type thing. And they joke around about him being part of the evil cabal. And so the black guy tells the story earlier about him and this guy talking and being drunk, and this guy revealing, that he's got to go on he wishes that the black guy could go with him, but he's got to go meet with all these people, and he jokes around about him meeting with the evil cabal. So right before the night before this happens, the blackout and all this, that client calls him and has him move large sums of money, which the black guy himself thinks, well, this is strange because, this is larger sum of money than he's ever had him move before. And there's all these references through the movie about money being moved. So if anybody's paying attention to the stock market, the reevaluate and all that symbolism that's going on right now, this is just riddled through this movie as well, the whole financial system. So media, finance, government, all of that stuff is through this movie. And if I sat here and explain every little detail of it to you, I'll make the movie 15 hours long, and so I'm trying not to do that, but I'm sure I'm going to leave out some really important stuff. But at this point, he starts talking about this same conversation with this client again. And during that conversation that him and this client had, the client explains to him that the thing that terrified this client more than anything from these meetings, because he was a defense contractor, was this plan. And he explains this plan to him. It's a 3-stage plan. The first one is isolation. Now, those who know me and have been to Fifth Sabbath and know me personally, and have talked about, these end time world scenarios, they know that the number one thing I tell people is don't give up your cell phone. The cell phone is going to be your clue. That's the last thing you want to give up. I know everybody else is telling you to, as soon as things go down, throw it in the trash, and because they're tracking you. No, that's the last thing you want to give up, because that's going to tell you when communication's down. So that's what the number one thing is isolation. So they isolate you by cutting off communication and shutting down your avenue of escape. So like the roads are blocked, the bridges are out. Something has got you locked into your geographical region, so you can't escape your region. So they're isolating you to that region. The second one is the synchronized chaos. So spreading of misinformation. That was the dropping of the leaflets. I forgot to mention one part on the East Coast. They were dropping the Islam leaflets. On the West Coast, they were dropping leaflets that looked like they were from North Korea. So nobody knew who was attacking and who did the cyber attack or anything, because it all appears like our own government was doing it. So they destabilized us from the inside and was trying to blame it on somebody like it was an outside job. But they couldn't even get that straight, because the East Coast was thinking it was Muslims and the West Coast was thinking it was North Korea. But isolation by cutting off communication and shutting down avenues of escape. Number 2 was synchronized chaos, spreading information, activating the extremists in our society, especially the extremists in our own military. So that they push the buttons of the military. You got to defend the nation. You got to stand up and defend the government. And so when this thing's over with, there's a nation left. That's the extremists in our own military. So they want to activate them. And then after that happens, the rest of the world just sits back and watches what happens, because that alone will create a civil war. And that's what the whole movie is from the beginning. The contrast between black and white, the racial undertones in there. Chris grew up with black people. I grew up with black people. I think Ryan did too. We were all just poor. We didn't care if we were white or black or we were all poor. There was no color when you're poor. You eat at my mama's house, I eat at your mama's house tomorrow. That's the way we grew up. So I really don't understand, since Obama became president, which is kind of crazy that he's part of this movie, all of this racial tension back in the nation, where, people are ready to go to war over this, perceived racial nonsense. If you live in the South, most people realize, that's kind of a joke. The racism that we're being fed from the East Coast and the West Coast is not here in the South, because we're white people, black people, we live beside each other and we love each other, and I'll fight for him just as quick as he'll fight for me, and we're brothers. Doesn't matter what color skin we have on us. That's the crazy stuff. But that's what the media is trying to feed us and hyperinflate us with, that kind of stuff. So we'll go to war against each other. That's that whole misinformation and division. And I think I'm gonna stop there and let you guys jump in on that and kind of chime in if any of that symbolism hit you with what you're interacting with now. So I'll turn it over to you for a minute.
Go ahead, Ryan. See what you got.
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting. I haven't watched it. I haven't watched the movie, but um, it is peculiar that there was that much symbolism that's coming out right now. You know,
Oh,
apparently
that's just half of it.
yeah, that's a new show, and so that's they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's the cabal or the white hats trying to show us, either either trying to show us what we could have been into, or leading us
The
down
fact-
the road of what's fixing to happen.
The fact that they actually mention the evil cabal by name multiple times in this movie, that's kind of concerning to me.
Yeah, that's kind of showing who's in charge of it. But yeah, that 11:17 on the clock, that 17 symbol. Was there any Q symbols that you saw?
Oh, Q symbols throughout this movie. I didn't even talk about the deer. So
If you got Q symbols throughout, that's Anons. I mean, that's the work of the Anons showing us, showing us what actually could happen, or what could have happened, if the other administration had gotten in, and the path that they were going to take us down. That's pretty telling.
When I say Q symbols, I never saw a Q in the movie, like the actual Q symbol, Q.
Yeah.
But I saw a lot of the symbolism that traces back to Q. So that kind of stuff, I don't know if it was actually Q letting us know something, or maybe the cabal actually making fun of Q. One or the other. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie either. You know, you told me about what we were going to do, and I looked up some things, and then just listening to you go through all these, a half or maybe not even half of the symbols. You watch it again, you'll probably pick up, just as many.
Yeah.
It's, when I think of Hollywood, or if I think of any of the music industries, I'm automatically, on guard and against them.
Yeah.
So, for me to look at it from the light of it may be, some sort of good guys in the background telling us, here's what could have happened, or here's what may be coming to give us warning. It's hard for me to look at it from that perspective. That I'm always looking at it from the perspective of, the Illuminati type perspective, that the mind control that's going on with all the people, and that all this stuff is, it's in your face. And people like us who are looking for the symbolism may pick up on it, but like you said, everybody's subconscious is picking up on these things. And I mean, we've got. Did you see that Bikini Kill T-shirt that Ethan Hawke had on? That I just saw it when I was scrolling through some of the pictures.
Yeah,
It's got a record.
I didn't notice that one.
Okay, it's got a record player on it, but it looked like a 45 was on there, and it was kind of distorted looking, somewhat abstract.
That same symbol.
I'll see an eye right in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. That same symbol is actually, they have an aerial view, like taken from a drone over a city, over like a city street that has a turnabout on it. And in the center is that same center symbol that looks like the arm of a record player coming over, like on that shirt that you're talking about. But I didn't notice the shirt, but I did notice that.
Okay, so I wasn't sure about that. That right there made me think of, it's kind of a tangent as far as, thinking about the mind control that the elites are doing through Hollywood and the music. But there was just real quick, just to kind of let everybody in on kind of how the occult works and the witchcraft that's going on, is this guy was he was one of the Collins family, and I don't know if he was the Collins family, but they brought witchcraft to the United States, and they're a pretty high up, upper echelon type Illuminati family. Well, he got out of that and became a believer in the Messiah, but he was telling a story about the producers in the music industry that before they would put, and this was, back in the day, and they still may use the 45 to do the original, they call it the King's disc. And what they would do was they would call in a high level, it was part of the Rothschild family. Typically, it would come in, he was some sort of high level warlock or something like that. Well, he would, and this is coming from him, so, y'all take this for what you can take out of it. And they would come in and they would have a ritual seance that they would actually summons a high level demon, and he was ranked like a throne typically, and he would implant this demon into this 45 record, and then any record that was recorded off of this 45 called the King's disc, that throne demon would then assign a lesser demon to every single recording that went out to mind control the person that listened to it. So crazy stuff. I mean, that's where my mind went. And then when we start talking about, I mean, if you got baseball in there, you got some heavy Masonic rituals going on. If anybody wants to dive down that rabbit hole and look at, America's game and how richly it is ingrained in occult ritualism. So, I don't know, checkerboard, black and white. I mean, you're up and down staircases, man. All I'm seeing is Illuminati stuff within this show.
Yeah.
Kind of trying, I don't know if they're putting in our face, telling us they're in charge and they're running things, and these Teslas are about to clog up our streets. I can't stand them. Self-driving things. I don't know. You kind of got me wanting to watch it a little bit, but then again, I just.
Well, the thing about it is, it's not that great of a movie. I mean, if
it's just everywhere. It's just, but it's just.
You're kind of cutting in and out on my end.
Obviously, you said this was 3 days. Oh, am I cutting out on you too, Ryan?
No, you're fine now. You're fine now. Yeah.
Okay. 12. 12 being obviously a very significant number, and then it finishing up with the all-seeing eye. I'm like, man, we got the 3 days. You said the show was only across a 3 day span. I mean, obviously that's got to be some sort of direct symbolism to the Messiah. I don't know. I mean, it seems like the world is getting crazy. We talk about the Mandela effect. We talk about misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And we about just getting everybody's mind stirred up. And I mean, there's so much information. I was telling my wife today that it's almost like, I can see it like a huge handful of things in my mind that information's everywhere. And like right now, I just kind of need to take my arms and scoop it all in and start categorizing it in the library, because there's so much. Like we're bombarded with information. Like every second that we're on our phone, we're looking up something. Everybody's an expert, and it's hard to even win an argument, over something. Like you've studied, 45,000 hours of scripture, but you still can't tell somebody who watched a 10-minute video.
Yeah.
Video anything, because they're next. It's like, I mean, everybody's just confused.
Well,
I don't know. In movies like this, they just kind of show you how crazy the world's become and how people are asleep, and they aren't seeing the things that are right in their face that are inevitable, and they're coming.
There was one line in here about truth. Let me see if I can find that line again, because that was kind of a major thing. Oh, so there was a line in the movie about that talks about truth. It says, let me see if I can find it real quick, so I don't misquote it. The boy just out of the blue says, "I wonder if Taylor," tells his dad, "I wonder if Taylor's all right." So I didn't get a chance to investigate that a little bit, but Taylor, there's no person even named Taylor in the whole movie. So where did that come from?
Probably Taylor Swift. Make sure.
Yeah. I don't know what that was about. But now I can't find my line about truth as well. So the little girl, before the end of the movie, she tells this story. We've all heard the story before, that the guy is praying and he's seeking God because he understands that disaster is coming. And then he gets a news broadcast that the news reporter tells him, "Hey, there's a flood coming." you need to get out of this area because there's a flood coming. And he's like, no, I trust God. I'm praying and God's going to deliver me. So the flood comes and a guy comes along in a boat and says, hey, get in the boat. The flood's here. You're going to die if you stay here. And the guy climbs up on the roof of his house and says, no, I prayed and I'm trusting in God that God's going to deliver me. Well, a helicopter comes along, drops down a ladder to him, says, hey, get in the helicopter because if you don't, you're going to die. Well, the flood rose or he didn't get in the helicopter because he was trusting in God. The flood rose some more, and of course, the man drowns. And he gets to heaven, and he asks God. He said, hey, I trusted in you. I don't know, why I died. And God said, well, I sent you a news reporter, I sent you a boat, and I sent you a helicopter. How much more do you want me to do? So after the little girl tells that story, her next line is, I'm done waiting. And so the next morning she gets up and takes off on her own. And she goes over to this house called, where the Thorns have had this bunker built in the basement of this house. And she goes in there and eats in this house by herself. She's eating all this food, like just gorging herself on all the food that they have in this house. And the thing that struck me odd was by the kitchen table, they have 2 urns sitting in like a windowsill there. And then she walks down this long red corridor to where the stairs lead down to the bunker in the basement. And right by the door in the bunker of the basement, there's 2 more urns, just like the ones that were up in the dining room by the door of the bunker. So I'm sure there's some symbolism there as well. But basically, that line about truth it says basically it doesn't matter what you believe. We have fed you what you believe, but what you believe and what is actually the truth are 2 different things. So that's one of the references to the whole Mandela effect. Those people who have stayed away from the media and have stayed away from all these popular movies and sitcoms and that kind of stuff, they still have real memories. I mean, they remember "We are the champions" saying "of the world" on the end. Not this version that we have now. They remember the mamas and the papas saying, I went into the church and knelt down to pray. I mean, we remember those things. We remember, the holiday song saying, oh, what was the newest holiday song? I forget. Anyways, there's a new Mandela effect on a holiday song right now that's freaking everybody out. And it's like people are being bombarded with this and told that they have false memories. So people don't want to say, well, I'm a weirdo and I'm having a false memory. So they convince themselves that it's actually the way that they're being fed it now instead of the way they actually remember it. So now they say, you're the one having the false memory, not me. So, which is creating this whole Mandela effect. And the movie kind of it alludes to that. It doesn't come right out and say that in the movie. But if you understand everything that's going on, this is a psychological warfare that we're in right now. I believe that we are transitioning into this messianic age, and it's going to get really messy in this transition. That's what I believe. I believe that some of us are coming into a higher consciousness because that's where the Father's drawing us into. We're not going to be swayed by the lies. We're not going to be, our brains aren't going to be fooled by this kind of stuff. I mean, I was joking around with Steve last night, and I told him, I said, the universe that I come from, I lived on a round Earth with an orange sun. I don't know how I got on this flat Earth with this white sun. I really don't. I don't know how that happened, but I know that I know that the universe that I came from was a round Earth with an orange sun.
Oh man. Well, that just means that we got to study up on the scriptures because His Torah is the truth, and we got to know the Messiah because He's the truth. I mean, because all this other stuff, and I just wrote information war of the mind. I mean, that's what that's what we're dealing with here. Is who are you seeking to get your source of truth from? And if it's not the actual truth, then you're going to be led astray, and you're not going to see what's coming.
100%.
And you just get, with the ostrich syndrome. I mean, if you start really, I talk about the King's Disc and, talk about the spiritual warfare that we're up against. People hear that and they're like, man, that dude's crazy. But I'm like, okay, you can stick your head back in the sand if you want to just not see what's really going on and not realize the massive war that we're in, that we've been in. I mean, you talk about a psyop. I mean, it's been a psyop since the day we were born. I mean, they began, reprogramming
years,
us and lying
at
to us
least.
We've never known anything different than, this psyop that we've been in from the very beginning. I mean,
yeah,
our parents were duped at birth. I mean, to trade us over and sell us. I mean, it's just, all the things that you can go down the rabbit hole and start looking at, the underlying truth and see the lie on top. And I mean, it'll melt your brain. You got to take it one step at a time.
How is it that we have, and I know this is kind of an odd show, but I mean, let's just get real stupid with it. I mean, what do we do with this stuff, like these buildings? I mean, these buildings that we don't have the technology to recreate today. These solid marble pillars that we don't have equipment strong enough to move these things today. But we're told we built these things in the 20s and the 30s. Well, we had cameras in the 20s and the 30s, and the only pictures that we have of any of these things are people painting them. No actual construction done to any of them, but we got plenty of pictures of people painting them. Why don't we have pictures of the actual construction being done to them? So it's like our whole it's like our whole reality is a lie. That there was this whole society before us.
Yeah, I think that's the good evidence that there was some sort of reset before. Right around before the time about 1880s and things like that. I saw a guy going over some of the women's universities. And and not just downgrading a women's university, but it was an old women's university that wasn't that prevalent back in 1900s. But the massive buildings and structures that you're talking about, that was ancient campus. Now, really, I don't really think that during that day and time that they would have been dedicated to the women's university. So his whole point was just there was something before that had all these ancient architectures and buildings, and they're in cities all over the United States. They're out of place. I mean, they're just so well. And then you talk about the World Fair, that they would build these elaborate cities in like 6 months and then deconstruct them, and it's like we couldn't build those in 20 years.
Tear them down the next year.
Well,
the next year. I mean, just totally deconstruction.
I did some studying on that subject. Back in the 18 and early 1900s, some of it was called the Tartanian. The Tartanian.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where a lot of these churches, they had the big cathedral churches, and they had pipe organs, and at the top of these churches, they didn't have a steeple. They had an energy center at the top of these buildings that supplied the energy, the free energy, to those buildings. They had mercury in them, and they had all sorts of little generators on top of those buildings that supplied the power. And I saw pictures in the 1900s, of electric cars, people driving around electric cars. But it's like, like they have completely destroyed the evidence of all of those things. It's like the bells. They've cracked all the big bells that had frequency. They had a lot of those big bells were
entire fields of them, where they just took them and threw them out in the field,
busted them up. Every bell you see's got a crack in it. And a lot of these churches, what I learned was a lot of these churches, that's where they came to heal. They heal their bodies because those churches put out healing frequency. Those pipe organs and the sounds and the way
the light
was built. Yeah. They destroyed all that stuff. So
Well, that was the crazy thing that I kind of went down that rabbit hole. The combination of the light coming through those stained glass windows and the sound of the bells being played and the frequency and all of those things combined was actually a healing frequency that people would literally come there to get healed. And inside some of those buildings right now, I mean, it doesn't make sense. You have this fireplace that's the actual opening to the fireplace, the wood box that you put in there is like 20 feet tall. How are you going to start a fire in that fireplace? With a 20-foot tall opening to put wood in? You just building a fire in the middle of the floor. That's not a fireplace. That's not directing any heat out into the building. I mean, you have to build a bonfire so big it would burn the place down. So that tells me that what we're calling a fireplace was actually probably used for something else when that building was originally constructed. And they got these metal things that come out of those things that we're equating to a fireplace that run the course of all the way up to what we call the chimney to the top, like you were talking about, with some mercury antenna on top of it. So it was like it was radiating heat out of the atmosphere and heating the inside of that building, and actually never burn a fire in that thing that we're calling a fireplace. I mean, if you go down that rabbit hole, that's a trail. I mean, especially you start really looking into Tartarian society and how, why did we have doors that were 28 feet tall? Who would need a door that was 28 feet tall? And we still have buildings today that have 28-foot tall doors. That doesn't make sense.
Well, and I just watched a video yesterday talking about the electricity. How they put these electric lines up in the air so high with these big poles that really those long lines are creating electricity through the ether in the atmosphere. That's why they don't like putting lines underground, is because they can pull the electricity out of the air, put them into those lines, and actually create the energy that they're turning around selling to us. That energy's free, and Tesla designed it, and the cabal hijacked it, and they're selling it to us. But that made a lot of sense to me. Why they don't ever take those highline wires down, and then why are they so high up in the air? But like I said, if you do hundreds or thousands of miles of them, they're actually generating energy, putting it back into those lines. They're not just coming from a power plant. They're creating the energy through those lines.
We're a slave planet right now. Most people don't understand that. You don't own your land. Somebody else owns your land. Don't believe me? Don't pay your taxes 1 year. You don't own your car. I mean, we don't own anything. We are literally a slave planet, and that doesn't matter what nation you're in. So people, well, I'm going to run to this nation or I'm going to run to that nation. No, you're a slave in that nation the same way. I don't know until Yahweh resets this thing and Israel is ruling and reigning from his holy mountain according to his purpose and according to the Torah. It's going to remain a slave planet. The only time we're going to be free is when the Torah is both the civil and religious law of the land, and we're all abiding in it. I wish that there was a way to make everybody understand that, but that's a little bit difficult. I tell people the story, and I raised Pentecostal holiness, and jumped through those hoops my whole life. And now I keep Torah, and they're like, well, you keep the law? I'm like, man, if you understood how free I feel now compared to the way I felt when I was doing Pentecostal holiness religion, the Torah freed me. There is no bondage in the Torah. It's absolutely true freedom when you start walking in the Torah. And it's just amazing, that the Father is revealing these things to us in this day and time that our history's been hid from us. I mean, I saw this documentary a couple days ago that they found iron pipes, in the ground that predate, 1,200 years ago is what they're saying. I mean, predate us being able to work iron. So how is that possible? And how they were filtering water, and there was chemicals inside those iron pipes that were transferring electrical power from the water. They were generating power from the water through these pipes and piping them into buildings, so they would have some form of electrical currency. I mean, I think that the burning of Alexandria, the Dark Ages, that whole period that was going on in that era was nothing but a huge deception, and I think that's why we refer to that as the Dark Age, because that's when our history got changed. That's when we came out on the other end of the Dark Age, as the old saying goes, to the victor goes the spoils, and to the victor's the one who writes history, not the loser. Okay, yeah. So there was some kind of huge war being waged, and the evil people won at some point, and now they've stole our history. They've turned us into slaves. We call ourselves free men, but we're not. I mean, there's nothing free about the way we live. Ryan has to slave, Chris has to slave, I have to slave, or our families don't eat. We don't have power. We don't have heat. We don't have food. I mean, there is no, going out and getting a farm, producing your own food. I mean, it's just not the world we live in today. Now, there's people trying to return to it, but even those people are having to rely on things that are created from this world and bring it back to their world to survive, like solar panels and that kind of stuff. I mean, they say they're living off grid, but are they? I mean, they had to store up that money and take it out there so they could live off grid. So, I mean, it's not really the way we're supposed to live as human beings. And everything feels so foreign to us. I mean, I think that's what's contributing to our mental health and driving men mad. And if when the Father restores this and we do whatever this messianic transition is here that we're going through, and our consciousness is made aware of all of the things that have been hidden from us, I think that they burnt Alexandria, but I think that the Father preserved those documents somewhere else, and all that information is going to come out again at some point, and we're going to be able to kick the shackles off of us and not be slaves anymore, and just work for the Father's kingdom.
That's right. Yep.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that day, and hopefully this financial reset happens pretty quick. that would be a good thing. I mean, for those who are following that, it's looking like it's a little bit closer than it was yesterday. Probably be a little bit closer Monday than it was today. So we're going to see how all that plays out. But I know we're in for a wild ride here. And it's amazing. It's amazing for me to sit back and see how the Father's causing the enemy to expose themselves, and how he's bringing out truths that they thought they had hidden from us. If you look at those two things from 1,000-foot view, you can't see the hand of the Father in it. You're blind. That's the way I see it, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we all need to embrace this confusion, and we need to embrace this, keep an open mind to all these things, because to me, that's the Father showing us, doing this upgrade in consciousness to get us out of where this cesspool of lies and deception that the enemy's had us in, for the last, couple hundred years or whatever. But I mean, even before our generation, but it's it's these things, these revelations that are coming. To me, that's from the Father. The enemy's trying to drag us down and keep us down into this third dimension and not keep, or he's trying to keep us in this matrix instead of letting us rise up so we can actually see what the Father's got in store for us, for this reset, and for the Messianic movement. So you can't, I don't want people to think, well, they're being too much of a conspiracy theorist, or I just think it needs to have an open mind about all this, because like I said, Father's stirring us, and he's getting ready to expose some things that we're not ready. We're going to be shaken, and it's going to hurt. It's going to put a hurt on us. But the quicker you can wake up and say, you know what, I'm awake to this, and I'm not going. And that's the thing, when you wake up to some of these realities, you don't go back to sleep about it. And a lot of times it's a blessing. It's a blessing, but it's also a curse, because you're sitting there living in a world that it's not right, and what the enemy is doing to his people, to all these people, and it does hurt, But you just have faith, rejoice that the Father he's gonna show his hand mightily here, just very, very quickly. I feel like.
Well, that was I'm sitting here looking at my phone. I don't know if anybody can see that. No, you can't see it if I put it up to the screen. But on this movie, there was a picture of the United States at one point on this movie, like on a news broadcast. And if you paid really close attention, there were one of those QR codes in the picture of the United States. So I scanned that QR code that was in the picture of the United States there, and it took me to this website that says Visit Mercer County, Lake Shawnee Abandoned Amusement Park. Now, why would they put that in that movie? A QR code to this site about an abandoned amusement park.
Sounds like a road trip. Let's go.
I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy stuff.
That's weird. What are the GPS coordinates?
Well, it's in West Virginia is where it's at. So I mean, you can actually schedule a thing to go into this place. It's called and they have what they call a dark carnival there in October. So yeah, it's supposed to be some scary experience in October, I guess. Looking at that, but I mean, I'm sure I missed 1,000 symbols in that movie tonight, but if we just start picking up on the signals that the Father's sending us the same way we pick up on these signs and symbols that are coming from the occult, if we start looking at the Word and start seeing those clues that He's given us, I think it's just going to keep pushing our spiritual consciousness higher and higher and higher. So we start seeing more in that realm than we do in this realm. We're talking about crazy rabbit holes. Last week I got stuck in one about the moon landing. And I mean, I will, if somebody held the gun up to my head right now and said, did we land on the moon? I would say no. I mean, we have NASA, in the last 5 years talking over and over and over about one day we'll have the technology to get through the Van Allen belt. Okay. So we don't have we've never had the technology to get to the Van Allen belt, the radiation belt around the Earth, but we supposedly went to the moon. We have all of these recent NASA people talking about one day we will break low Earth orbit. Well, the moon's supposed to be out of Earth's orbit. So how come NASA thinks we've never left Earth's orbit? Those types of things. Those are deep rabbit holes because we've been fed this lie after lie after lie after lie, and those things. I mean, the mudslides. Why is 5 stories deep? Some of these buildings, they start digging down, and what they thought was the foundation isn't. They go 5 more stories deep before they actually hit the actual foundation. So, which alludes to there being some cataclysmic earth shifting thing that happened, a mudslide that that mud 5 stories deep. That's almost 50 feet of mud in some of these buildings that slid through them, and now they're still 10 or 15 stories above the earth. But we built those buildings. I mean, this stuff's just not making sense. Our history's not making sense. And I don't know what it is. I mean, we can sit here and speculate, but we don't know. I mean, I'm 51 years old, and I don't know. Yeah, I know we're all relatively the same age, except Chris. I mean, he's 6 or 7 years younger than us. But the trying to figure this out, I don't. Sometimes my brain hurts.
It does.
Because there's just so much information at our fingertips. Most people won't even attempt to go down those rabbit holes because their brains can't handle it. They can't question things that they've held to be long held truths. Well, when the Father showed me the Torah and showed me that the life that I had been living up until he showed me the Torah was a lie, I question everything now. I mean, everything has become a question to me because what was taught to me as truth for the majority of my young adult life was proved to be a lie. So now, what else is a lie? And it seems like the more we dig into some of these things, that they're just lies. And even maybe some of our family members were participatory in these lies. So we have to question it all. We have maybe they work for the government. Maybe they're part of the lie. Maybe they're part of the scenario. Maybe they're part of that dimension that we came from. Again, I came from a round Earth with an orange sun. I don't know how I got on a flat plane with a white dot in the sky. I don't know. Something changed. But I can't explain it. But I've asked people numerous times, hey, draw me a picture of a house, a yard, a tree, a sun, and a sky. What color do they paint the sun every time? Yellow or orange? Yellow or orange? Yellow. That's it. Yeah. It's either a yellow or an orange sun. It's never a white sun. So,
well, that'd be easy. You just draw a circle then.
Yeah. Well, you don't. It's crazy. It's craziness. The crazy thing is, I remember them telling me as a kid, "Hey, don't look at the sun; it'll burn your eyes." So, what are you going to do as a kid when they tell you not to do so? You look at this. You look at the sun, and as a kid, I looked at the sun numerous times, and it was orange, so or yellow. So and I know people will say, "Well, that's because they're bombarding our atmosphere, and they're all this stuff, so we'll get hit by stronger UV rays and X-rays and that kind of stuff." I don't know, and maybe that's the truth. I don't know. But what I do know is what we're being fed is not the truth. And the whole theme of tonight's message is literally question everything. Every symbol that's placed in front of you, everything that you thought was the truth, you need to back up and rethink it. Because the more we dig into these things, the more untrue they become. You guys ain't got anything else on that?
Yeah, I mean, just everything we've been, our history, and like the planets. I don't even think we have planets. I mean, I think we're sitting under a firmament. We're sitting under a flat Earth. We got ice wall around us. We got land that we've never even seen on the other side of this ice wall. Just huge lies. Why is there a treaty? All 210 countries signed a treaty that nobody's allowed to go to Antarctica.
You can't fly over Antarctica. What's that about?
What's that about? Why
you
not?
Can't fly over ice? Why can't you fly over ice? That don't make any sense.
Why not? You know, they quiz these airline pilots, and they say, you know, I've watched some videos on it. The airline pilots are like, yeah, Earth's flat. It's not round. Because we don't do a curvature. Every time we fly straight. Well, man, that shoots your whole thought process going. You know, going through school. It just shoots your whole. I mean, it makes you mad. I mean, they just lied to you.
My
Why
buddy
did
Mike.
they lie to you? You know, so they could take all that money. Look at all the trillions of dollars that we've given NASA. What did they do with it? You know.
Yeah. What are they still doing with it? Because we're still giving them money.
Yeah.
I mean, we're planning on going back to the moon again, but we don't have the technology to. That's that's one of the things that I find amazing.
You know, did we really have a Challenger explode? I mean, I remember sitting in the library watching this Challenger explode.
Me too.
Did that really happen? If we can't get through their firmament, that Challenger didn't go through it. You know, and just to look at that bird, just to look at that airplane or that vehicle, I mean, there's no way that it can fly as fast as they say it does. I mean, it's not aerodynamic. There's nothing to it that can fly that fast. You know, you get next to you know, one of those SR-20 or SR whatever Blackbirds. You know, there's no comparison to them. So I don't know. It just makes you mad. You know that it's just coming out. There's this lie after lie after lie. And I don't know. We better put seatbelts on because I think it's fixing to be a wild ride.
Well, I think that all of these disclosures that are being made right now, some of the stuff that we might have said on here tonight might have got us put in the crazy category. But I've been there before. I joke all the time that, you know, I've got to find some new conspiracies because all my old ones have been proven to be fat. So, and that's the truth. I mean, it's a joke, but it's the truth. I don't know that anything that I've been led to believe in the last 10 or 15 years that people thought were conspiracies have not come true. You know, you can't fit a 747 through a 15-foot hole and not leave any wreckage on the Pentagon lawn. I mean, you just can't do that. So 9/11, inside job. I mean, no plane hit the Pentagon, and you're never going to convince me of that. But people will still believe that, and if you question it, oh no, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, I mean, you're a conspiracy dummy if you can't see that you can't fit a 747 through a 15-foot hole and not leave any wreckage, not a suitcase, not a wheel. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been next to a 747. The wheel on a 747 is bigger than 15 feet. But it supposedly magically shrunk and went through a 15-foot hole in the side of the Pentagon and left no wreckage in the yard. Come on.
Well, and what gets me is, you know, a bird can hit a 747, and that plane's got to land.
Yeah.
Because when a bird punches through the hole of the nose cone of that 747, it's got to land. But yet that plane can fly through the Twin Towers and go almost all the way through it and then blow that thing up and melt that building. There's no way.
Yeah.
No way at all.
Well, as a demolition specialist, I work for a company called Industrial as a demolition specialist. I'm going to tell you, buildings don't fall like that. they don't fall straight down. I mean, they don't. If they naturally fall, they fall over. Just like if I stand a stick up here and break it, it's gonna fall over. It's just the natural law. They don't pop out from the bottom and fall straight down on top of themselves. And I mean, there again, what about Building 7? I mean, we talk about that all the time. No plane even hit it. It fell the same way. It's come on. Yeah. You sit here and you listen to this stuff, and in your mind, you know we're right. You know we're right. But because you have believed the narrative so long and so deep, you can't let go of it because it hurts your brain. Yep. You got to break out. The whole you got to break out of whatever that demonic consciousness is trying to hold you in, because I think we're transitioning here, and I really believe we are, because those things that were lies, we're coming out of them. The Father's revealing them to be lies, whether it be our history, whether it be, things like 9/11 or Korea or Tartaria. I mean, why do we find all these maps now? I mean, just recently in the last 10 years, we find all these maps that literally show Tartaria on them from the 1800s. That don't make any sense. And then we these movies that are coming out, like the one we're talking about tonight with all the symbolism and everything in it, they know they're being exposed. They're exposing themselves because they think they've won this thing, and they think they don't have to hide anymore, so they could just put it out, in the public in programming movies like this, programming people, oh, there's going to be a civil war, and you're going to be locked down, and don't fight each other. I mean, because that's the whole message of this movie, is you're the ones that's going to do it to yourself, so don't do that. When everything goes bad, don't fight each other. Just peace, love, and harmony. Well, the Bible says that there's going to be a battle. It's going to be a big battle, and Satan's going to lose. I just want to be on God's side. However that looks, I don't even know. I don't even know how it's going to look. I don't want to pretend to know how it's going to look. Another thing, me and Steve was talking about, last night. A Buddhist believes that their God's real. Hindu believes their God's real. Islamic person believes that their God's real, and we all believe that. And I made this statement. I don't know if everything I believe is true. I know the God that I believe in is the God, though, and that's really what it boils down to. I mean, he's changed what I think about different things throughout my walk with him. But I know that the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the one true God. So if I hold to that one truth and that one truth alone, I believe that he is going to lead me to whatever consciousness, whatever terminology we want to use. It almost sounds new agey, jump into a new consciousness or saying the word empath or those things. I don't want to use, I don't know what other words to use, though. But when you use words like
go from glory to glory, man.
Glory to glory. But then you sound like you're just trying to excuse things. But
it's what it says.
Yeah, I know. But a higher state of consciousness, a higher state of awareness, a messianic age, where that whole messianic kingdom principle is being played out. I think we're on the verge of that, and I think that's why the enemy is fighting so hard right now, and he's trying to rob, kill, steal, and destroy, like Scripture says he's going to, and he's going to fight to the last breath. But at the same time, I read the end of the book. I know who wins, and it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So whatever battle we have to fight, let's just do that. Let's just fight that battle. If we have to wage it in our mind or if we have to wage it in our flesh, let's fight that battle. Let's purpose in our hearts, minds, and spirits to fight that battle. So when we come out on the other side, we are literally ruling, living in his kingdom.
Amen.
Amen to that.
I like Robin. I like your wife Robin's comment on the chat there. It says we're leveling up. Yeah, we are. I mean, we're part of the matrix, and we're leveling up. We're moving to whatever next level we're supposed to be in, and whether that's a different plane of existence or a different plane of consciousness or awareness or knowledge, or I don't know what it is, but I know that when I look in other people's eyes, we're not the same. And used to, you'd look at people and you'd go, yeah, we're basically the same. But now I look at people and we're not the same. there's nothing behind their eyes anymore, and it doesn't make sense to me. So we're just gonna have to, whatever's happening, just trust the Father that He's in charge and He's leading us and He's guiding us. If you guys don't have anything else, let's burn rubber out of here. We already went. We almost went 2 hours again. How did we do that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get us out of here in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I look at the clock there and I'm like, wow, that's 9:50. But anyways, thanks for everybody who joined us tonight. Everybody's watching online. We're gonna burn rubber out of here, and as always, we love you, but not as much as God does. We'll see you next time on the Tents of Israel. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.